Hey, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Pierce Eugene Wall. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Knak, and I'm going to be your host for today's event. We want to make this as interactive and engaging as possible, so please leave your questions as we go here in the box on the left. I'll answer the inevitable first question, which is yes, we are recording this event, and we will also be distributing the slides. So how marketing ops can better enable customer experience is a topic that I'm particularly passionate about. Back in 2016, I read Jay Baer's book, Hug Your Haters, and it just gave me this whole new appreciation for the customer and customer service. Every business today exists to provide something to a customer, and we as marketers are a huge part of that customer experience. We're going to talk about how marketers like you can really lead the customer experience revolution at your company. And I can't think of anyone better to join me to talk with you about this today. So we obviously had to bring one of our customers to a customer experience webinar, and arguably no one has done customer marketing better than Slack. They have now over 12 million daily active users sending 1 billion messages every week. And Paul Wilson is the VP of Marketing Operations, and he's going to share about how they build a MarTech stack that serves their customers' ever-changing needs. You also can't have a customer experience event without the legendary Jay Baer. He's an amazing keynote speaker and a New York Times best-selling author and president of Convince and Convert. Jay is going to be talking to us today about customer experience and marketing and how those two things are now inseparable. And I'm also going to be joined by Knak's lead product designer, Cherry Hung, who's going to show us how we here at Knak thought about all of your customer experiences in today's event. But before we get into that, some of you in the audience might be like I was, which is like, I've heard a lot about CX or customer experience, but what is it? It's a very broad topic. It's something that's hard to define. And so I'm actually going to leave this till later for Jay Baer to give a definition of it, because he will do a lot better job than I will. But one thing I will talk about is why CX is so important. This is a stat from Forbes that says that CX is a top growth driver, higher than any other area of growth. So it's something that is super important today. And what I'd love to share with everybody is an amazing customer experience that I've had recently with Peloton. So I'd love to take you through a series of emails and landing pages that really represented this customer experience. So, I ordered my bike and I was super excited to get started. I mean, how many of you guys out there have ordered something, and then in the time between when you order it and actually receive it, there's like a radio silence, and the company does nothing to really build you up with anticipation to receive your product. Peloton certainly does not miss this opportunity. As soon as you have ordered your bike, they're already preparing you and getting you ready to have the best experience possible. So I still haven't received my bike yet, but I'm in the loop. I know what's happening. And now they're telling me about, okay, once you get your bike, here's how you prepare for the delivery. And, one of the tips was how to move the 135-pound bike. I didn't really have time to get strong enough to be able to do that by myself, but that's kind of another story. So I get the bike delivered, and literally on the same day, I'm getting an email from them about my delivery experience. I think all of us as marketers know how challenging the logistics of the behind the scenes of this are. But as a customer, it's there and they're right there with you. And they really look at all of the little details. I'd love to show as well with everybody today this wrench that is included with your bike, which is also black, and it has the Peloton logo on it. And so as a marketer, I just love all of these little details that you can tell Peloton is a company that really cares about their brand, and they think of all of those little details. So Peloton are the masters of using data within their marketing. And really, they use it to put the customer at the center of all of their marketing. So in this email, they're congratulating me on a 3-week streak. They're encouraging me to use the product. And I think all of us as marketers know that, this is an automated email, but it's still nice to see them recognizing those milestones and putting the customer at the center of it all. This is another, great email that they have that's very focused on the customer usage. I'm sure everybody out there can think of an example where they could put their customers at the center of their communications. And in this example, Peloton really shows, the aggregated data of how I use the bike that month. Slack does an amazing job of this as well. If anybody has received an email from Slack, it shows the company's usage of Slack across the organization. So I just finished reading this book by Jay Baer. This is his most recent book, Talk Triggers. And we're actually going to be giving out 50 of these signed books during the event today. But one of the things that Jay talks about is how you can encourage word of mouth marketing and create these talk triggers within your marketing. I think Peloton has done an amazing job with this annual cool down email that actually links to a personalized video, again, using data for my usage of the bike. Now, I know for a fact that after I shared this email, I got at least 2 other people to buy Pelotons because both of my other co-founders both have Pelotons now. And so I really love how Peloton has used this to encourage word of mouth marketing in a great, beautiful email format. And then finally, a lot of us are probably looking at how do we spread this word of mouth marketing from a digital experience to the physical world. And I think Peloton did an amazing job here where after you've hit 100 rides, you can get a t-shirt that says that you're part of the Century Club. And so as you wear that around, it's a great talk trigger with your friends and family. And also, I think they did a good job here to kind of segment their promoters to encourage this talk trigger. People who have probably done 100 rides are the kind of people that they want to advocate for their product. So these are, 6 tips that I think we can all learn from Peloton and how they do it. And I hope all of you are able to take these and apply them to your marketing in your organizations. And so at this point, I would love to bring on Cherry Hung, who is our lead product designer, to talk about how we at Knak thought about the customer experience in today's event and applied those to the emails and landing pages that all of you would have received. So Cherry, how are things looking on your end?
They're good. Hi,
Awesome.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Cherry.
I'm so happy to be here today to give everyone this little tour. So I am just going to start up with opening up today's event in the Knack platform. And you can see here how we have our folder structured and all the campaigns that we have. And here is today's event campaign.
Oh, that's awesome, Cherry. So it looks like within this campaign, you have both your emails and landing pages.
Yeah, exactly. So both emails and landing pages are all built together inside of Knack.
Amazing. And so one thing I know as an attendee of a lot of webinars is it can be really frustrating to try and put that calendar file into my calendar. Could you show maybe how we helped make that a bit of an easier experience for the attendees today?
Sure. Let me open the email. Here it is. This is the email that everyone was sent, and I will go through our pre-built modules for our calendar. You can see this in the preview. That's what it is, and just drag and drop it right in there. It's that simple.
That's amazing. So Cherry, did somebody have to code that module for you with HTML?
No, nothing in Knack requires any code. All of this was built with our drag and drop editor.
Very cool. It sounds like your dog is pretty excited about this experience as well. I don't blame him. What about landing pages? Do we do anything around with that?
So let me show you one of the pages we built. We want to be, since we want to be collecting feedback from our registrants, and similar to what we did in our email modules, I'm going to just take this and drag and drop here, and that's how we get all of our feedback for this campaign.
That is awesome. So here again, I'm assuming we're not coding those pieces either. So does this page then live within Knack then? Is it hosted in Knack? And are those emails sent out through Knack?
No, we actually send it out of our marketing automation platform that's fully integrated with Knack. You can see here by pressing this publish button, it would sync the email or landing page with one click.
Amazing. And so what about for collaboration? Was our team able to work within Knack to get these campaigns out the door quicker?
Yeah, so collaboration at Knack is really important. So let me show you where we do it. You can see here, we can go into the Collaborate tab. And all collaboration is done directly inside of Knack. So here we have our pins, and then also comments from our team, which, as you said, which really helps speed up creation time because everything is just done right in here.
Amazing. And you know, I know at Knack we're like a lot of companies living inside Slack all day long, you know, communicating back and forth there. Does this integrate with Slack?
Definitely. Let me show you my Slack right now. Oh, sorry. Right here, you can see that all of the feedback on emails and landing page flow directly into Slack. And you can actually see that I got a Knack notification from Pierce for our last email here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cherry, and also your dog for participating and bringing us through the Knack platform today.
I'm severely sorry for that, but you can see she's excited. She wants this to be good.
Like I said, I don't blame her. So yeah, thanks again so much, Cherry. Amazing. So, we were just looking at Slack. Well, Slack is really a case study for product-led growth. They exploded onto the software scene and grew like wildfire because of the amazing customers experience they provided. Their customers sold Slack to organizations around the world. And I'm incredibly excited to have our customer, Paul Wilson from Slack, where he's VP of Marketing Operations, here with us today to talk about how he thinks about building Slack's MarTech stack that can evolve with today's ever-changing customer expectations. Paul, so great to have you on the event today.
It's really great to be here. And if anyone was wondering if this is a live webinar or not, I think we can pretty much tell with the contributions of the K9 that it is definitely a live webinar, which is awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
It's all part of the customer experience, right? Paul, like it changes all the time and you have to adapt and do your best with that. So earlier, we established that the term customer experience can be a little ambiguous, especially for marketers and marketing ops people who are connected in their part of that. So from your perspective, what role does marketing play in the customer experience?
That's a great question. And, I really think that all marketing now in every facet is digital in some way or another. And so when you think about even the immersive in-person experiences that we've had in the past and we will work to again, all of that is encompassed in the environment that you're in, the look and feel of a trade show booth, or the atmosphere that's pulled off at a live event. So from that perspective, all the way through to the initial ad that might attract your attention and cause you to be interested in learning more about a brand, all of those experiences are digital experiences. And that notion of coordinating and orchestrating the brand experience from a digital perspective is what I think marketers are the stewards of. And it's critically important that marketers put themselves in every phase of the customer journey and wear the shoes that their customers have at each of those points, and really ask the critical questions of whether or not the experience is representative of the brand and representative of what you would like to experience as a human. And I think marketers really need to consider everything they do from that lens of what's the customer's experience in this moment. How saturated do they feel or not feel by messaging? How do they feel reflected in the content that's being presented to them? And how are we effectively immersing them in the brand experience? So it's really all of the components of orchestrating those experiences that come into the responsibilities, in my opinion, of marketing operations. Because from a marketing operations perspective, we need to provide marketers with all of the systems that support the processes that they want that experience to be delivered through. And we need to inform those experiences with rich and accurate data. To your Peloton analogy, if the ride count for you was off and you were getting a congratulatory email for your 100th ride the second week you had the bike, either A, you're a significant overachiever, or B, it's bad data. Everything that we're doing from a marketing operations perspective needs to ensure that marketers can orchestrate those really immersive digital experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And you touched on data as well. So, if I'm a marketer, Paul, and I'm working at an enterprise company, I have all this data. There's more data than I'll ever know what to do with. Like, where do I start? Where do you think someone starts with that and CX?
Well, I think it really begins with CX. So if you want to consider customer experience something that is orchestrated, you need to consider at this phase in the customer's journey, what is an engaging experience look like? So I'll go back to your Peloton example. You know, as you're waiting for your bike to be delivered, Peloton is offering you access to their platform so that you can start to get to know some of the instructors. You can start experiencing what it will be like to be on that bike once it's delivered. And as you highlighted, once you hit that 100th ride, they give you a tangible piece of the brand experience. And from a marketer's perspective, the way data is informative to those parts of the journey that you want to highlight, it's really critical that the marketer validates with marketing operations that that data is accessible, that that data can be made useful in the information that is put into the content that's sent to the recipient. So again, you know, you hit your 14 rides within a month. You want to make sure that that data is accurate. Catching the fact that that 100th ride happens, you want to make sure that that email is timely. All of these elements are orchestrated by very, very valid and important data. And you're right, there is an absolute sea of data that's available. I was at a conference, and one of the keynote speakers was the customer experience chief customer experience officer for Best Buy, and they were talking about how on their customer profile for you as a prospect or customer of Best Buy, there are 37,000 data points that they track and map to your profile. And they use that to tailor the next offer that comes to you. Another brand that I think of that's a good experience of this, or a good example of this way that experience is orchestrated, is Netflix. You know, you're consuming content and they're seeing and analyzing the content that you're engaging with and suggesting the next interesting content for you to keep you engaged as a customer. So data really becomes one of the most significant informational pillars, and leveraging that data is how you deliver immersive customer experience.
Amazing. And, you know, Slack obviously does the customer experience, you know, maybe better than anyone. For you, how do you look at what does a good or sometimes a bad CX experience do for your brand?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, I think what's been very important for Slack's growth has been focusing on what the experience of the brand should feel like and delivering that experience starting with the product. And I think when I think of the brands that I think deliver a very good experience, you know, there's us, but then other brands that I think have really worked and curated their brand effectively. You know, Apple comes to mind for me. I know that not everybody is a fan of Apple, but I think that from the way that they're very cognizant of the device level experience, to the point that, you know, they have devices locked down. They have always controlled the ways that you can interact with and change your hardware. They really are. They curate the brand all the way from the product level, all the way into the stores, into the way that you're communicated, the look and feel. All of those elements are orchestrated. And so, you know, I think everyone can think of great brand experiences that resonate for you. And I would imagine that when you think about them, you think about in terms of you're being treated respectfully. The brand is bringing you in because it's engaging with information that's resonant for you, and they aren't saturating you. When I think about some brand experiences that aren't that great, it has to do with, I think, fundamentally, the poor engaging experience. So the look and feel factors, the whether or not I feel the look and feel is representative of the brand promise, And the other factor is critical is data. So, is there good orchestration within all of the parts of an enterprise, as an example, of an enterprise, to make sure that I'm not getting an email every day or multiple times a day from different parts of a large organization because they don't coordinate and orchestrate what that experience feels like? Or am I getting emails with bad data that represents, in the example earlier, congratulations on your 100th ride in your second week of owning the Peloton? So all of the elements that go together to deliver that customer experience are critical factors in what, from a marketing operations perspective, we need to ensure that we coordinate and help marketers with, because we can arm them with bad information that delivers a terrible experience.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. It's amazing insights, especially, to hear them from someone who's doing it so well. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience with us.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So our next speaker really needs no introduction. Jay Baer, he's a Hall of Fame keynote speaker. He's written several best-selling books on customer experience, and we're extremely excited to have him part of the event today. So Jay, the floor is yours.
Pierce, thanks so much. Paul, always great to hear from you. Congratulations on the continued success at Slack. Jerry, great demo. Thanks to your dog for making a guest appearance as well. I am, in fact, Jay Baer. In the past, I think marketing and customer experience, while generally speaking on the same side of the aisle, had kind of done their own thing, right? Sort of looked at their phone while having dinner, sort of kept to their own devices. That is changing very much as we have this conversation here today. In fact, new research from Salesforce that just came out recently found that in 80% of companies now, marketers are now in charge of customer experience. So we hope then that the future looks something like this, that marketing is giving customer experience a piggyback ride, or vice versa. It is a symbiotic, harmonious relationship, all in service of what customers actually need. Sounds great, doesn't it? The problem is that historically, most marketers haven't really spent that much time on customer experience because they've been doing marketing things. So I wanted to give you four must-dos that marketers and marketing ops professionals need to think about in this era of customer experience convergence. And the first of these is to understand, as Pierce teed up earlier, that customer experience, it doesn't actually exist, friends. It is pretend. It is like Snuffleupagus, if you're a Sesame Street fan. Customer experience is just a nickname that we've all agreed to use, and that nickname essentially represents dozens or hundreds of different decisions that you make in your business, that Paul makes in his business, that Pierce makes in Knak's business, that I make in my business. Dozens or hundreds of decisions that determine how customers actually feel about your business. Customer experience isn't a thing, right? It isn't a knob that you can twist or a switch that you can flick. It is in some ways all of the things. It is all the ways that you communicate, that you interact, that you engage, or lack thereof. The funny thing about customer experience, in addition to the fact that it's just a nickname, is that there is no such thing as an inherently good or an inherently poor customer experience. There is no experience that is inherently good or poor. See, customer experience is based on what I like to call the expectation equation. The expectation equation. The expectation equation says this: customer experience is and will always be the difference between what your customers expect and anticipate and then what actually happens. Customer experience is the difference between what your customers think will happen and what actually happens. right? We talked about a Peloton a moment ago. If you purchase a Peloton and you are told that it will be delivered to your home in 5 days, cool. If it comes in 4 days, you're pumped. That is a great customer experience. If it comes in 7 days, you're totally unhappy. It's a poor customer experience. Nothing has changed about the bicycle, about the service, about the brand. All that has changed is this expectation equation. Challenge is expectations don't stand still. In fact, that same Salesforce report found that 72% of marketers, that's us, say that customer expectations have actually gone up since the pandemic. Now, this isn't a pandemic-related issue. Customer expectations always go up. They always go up. What is commonplace today would have been lightning fast 5 years ago, and on and on and on. I've been doing this a long time. I've been in digital marketing since 1993, since domain names were free, quite literally. And nobody's ever said to me, I've been thinking, it'd be fine if they just did that more slowly, right? Nobody ever says that. Customer expectations always escalate, will continue to escalate, which means, unlike how we typically think in marketing ops, customer experience is never finished, right? You're never done. There is no last line of the project plan, because as soon as you think you've got customer experience figured out, the expectations level up and you've got to get better yet again. The second thing I want you to understand is that customer experience done well requires you to focus on actions, not attitudes. I have the good fortune of traveling around the world, giving presentations like this one to amazing organizations like Knak and their partners and clients. And it's disheartening to me how often I hear people say, well, the most important thing we can do is have a customer first attitude. Nope, that is definitely not the most important thing you can do, because you cannot pay your mortgage with an attitude. You cannot delight a customer with attitude. You have to actually do something to make customer experience better. For example, if I were to ask each of you, hey, do you believe that your company today delivers a superior customer experience? Paul would probably say yes, rightfully so. Many of you would say yes. In fact, when you ask companies this question in aggregate, 80% of companies, 8 in 10, say that they deliver a superior customer experience. The problem is 8% of customers agree. So there is a huge misalignment as to what superior customer experience actually means. And so to optimize customer experience, to get better, you can't just talk about it. This isn't a campfire song. We're not going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We have to actually stop, start, or change specific decisions or behaviors in your organization. We have to stop, start, or change some specific things in the organization. And so what this requires is to really think about, all right, if we care deeply about customer experience, if we really do care deeply, and it's not just attitude, it's also action, what's the implication for customer experience on open rate? What's the implication for customer experience on cost per lead? Are you willing to pay more for a lead if it delivers a better customer experience? Are you willing to generate less revenue if the trade-off is a better customer experience? Everybody's in favor of customer experience until it comes down to money. And then sometimes they're not quite as in favor of it as they thought they were. So when we think about these trade-offs, there's ways to actually execute on this in a marketing ops scenario that are both customer experience optimized and don't necessarily require you to take a backseat on revenue-based success metrics. For example, this is one of our clients at Convince and Convert, my consulting firm. This is the Arizona State University Foundation. Like many large nonprofits, they do a lot of different things. It's university-based, right? So they do stuff for health. They do stuff for the environment. They do all kinds of different things. Well, when you send out a communication, an email in this case, to a donor or a potential donor, you want to talk about a little of everything. Well, we do this, we do this, we do this. Great, but ultimately people have specific areas of giving with which they're disproportionately interested. Some people tend to give money to causes that are related to health, others to children, others to pets, etc., others to people experiencing homelessness, what have you. So what they do is in this first email, which is the one behind there on the screen, they give you a little paragraph on all the different things. Then they mine that click data. And if you click the top left-hand box, which is about protecting the planet and sustainability, every single email you get after that is about sustainability. See, what the Arizona State University Foundation understands about customer experience that we all need to understand is that if someone has told you, using the data that Paul talked about, the things that Best Buy collects and other organizations, if they've told you that they love ketchup, the one thing you shouldn't tell them is how good your mustard is, because all you're doing is reducing your own relevance. Here's another example. Here's a circumstance where maybe you want to focus more on customer education, even if it costs you total clicks, which is a success metric that many of us care about. Maybe you shouldn't care about clicks. Maybe you should actually care about educating the customer more. This is not dissimilar from the Peloton example. This is Grammarly, a software package that helps you write better. In this email, it tells you how often you use Grammarly, how many minutes, how many changes it found for you, etc. They're not really looking for a click necessarily. There is a link in the top right-hand corner to save money on a professional version of it, but they're really trying to use data, again, to educate you and engage with the customer. Or maybe you don't care as much about visitor session length, or you shouldn't care so much about it. Obviously, that's a success metric that a lot of people look at in their website stats. How long do people spend on the site? Well, maybe we don't want to spend very long on the site. This is an example from Empathy, which is a fantastic organization that helps you get through the loss of a loved one. This is an incredible landing page. You got one option: give us your phone number and press the button, or don't. What is your average session length here? Well, it's probably as long as it takes you to read 2 sentences of copy and type in a phone number. So not very long, but they don't care because they know that this is in fact the best customer experience. So when we're making all these decisions that we make, especially in marketing ops, we've got to make these decisions through that prism of customer experience and say, are we okay with less great metrics if it means better customer experience? Third thing I want you to think about is we have to figure out how to measure customer experience alongside marketing. And this is something that, frankly, we really haven't done very well historically. But what we're seeing is that the math, if you will, of customer experience is now being embraced. That Salesforce report found that the number one most important success metric for global marketers today is customer satisfaction. Number one. Number two, revenue. Again, if customer satisfaction is more important to you than revenue, what kind of trade-offs are you willing to make for that to be a reality? But one of the things about customer experience metrics and an emphasis on customer experience and sort of customer satisfaction overall is it forces us, or it should force us, to really think about the entire funnel as equally important. I think it's safe to say that most of us in digital marketing spend disproportionate amounts of time on early and mid-funnel activities because we're trying to create net new customers. That's just the way most businesses are tuned, especially growth organizations. But what's funny about that is when you think about customer satisfaction and customer satisfaction research, like Net Promoter Score or any sort of measure of customer satisfaction, those studies and that research is almost invariably conducted immediately post-purchase, right? You know what I'm talking about. You stay at a hotel, you buy a television, you give anybody money for anything, and 2 days later, a week later, you get an email survey, presumably, that says, hey, tell us how it went on a scale of 0 to 9. Would you recommend us to a friend, etc.? But there's a lot of other interactions between you and the brand other than the purchase, other than the transaction. Customer experience and how you feel about a brand begins at the first touch. It begins when you first hear about the brand. It's not just when you actually give them money. And in fact, most of those touches that occur before the transaction are marketing. They're the things that we do. We're the ones that are actually creating brand ties pre-purchase. And so I think it would make a lot more sense to actually measure some customer satisfaction before they actually have given us cash. The other thing is we should think about not only using things like Net Promoter Score as our key customer satisfaction index. I have no problem with Net Promoter Score. I like it a lot, use it a lot. It's perfectly adequate. However, it doesn't measure the totality of customer experience or even the totality of customer satisfaction. Net Promoter Score asks the same question on a scale of 0 to 9. How likely would you be to advocate on our behalf, to tell somebody else about us? And a propensity to engage in word of mouth, which is a topic that I'm deeply familiar with, per my book, Talk Triggers, that Pierce was nice enough to hold up earlier. A propensity to engage in proactive word of mouth is not the same as customer satisfaction. I've been satisfied lots of times, but not felt compelled to tell a story about it, and you have as well. So there's other ways to measure this, right? Customer effort score is a great measure. How easy or hard was it to purchase from us? How easy or hard was it to get the information you needed to solve your problem? And if you're going to use word of mouth as a success metric, and you absolutely should, a lot of that you can get at without asking the question, right? How many reviews does your company have? Whether it's on Google or G2 or anywhere else, and you get more and more reviews, and what do those reviews say? What do your customers say about your business in social media? What do your customers say to your customer success team when they're on the telephone or email or live chat or text or anything else? So a lot of customer attitudes can be pulled out of the data without necessarily having to use an email survey to ask you a traditional Net Promoter Score question. The fourth thing that I'll tell you, and I think this is the most important one because it really is foundational to how to think about this new marketing and customer experience convergence, is, friends, I want you to treat feedback as a gift, because it really, really is. All companies get complaints, including my company, including Slack, including Knak, including your company. All companies get complaints. No organization is perfect and never will be. A few companies tolerate complaints. The best companies embrace complaints. My friend Aaron Pepper used to be the head of guest relations and customer experience at Le Pain Quotidien, which is a chain of bakeries and cafes, recently purchased in private equity, so the business is a little different than when she worked there, but they're based in Brussels. At one point, they had about 400 locations. A good organization, run a good business, nice operations, solid, right? When Erin started there a few years ago, her first week on the job, big executive team meeting, everybody gathers around the conference table in pre-COVID times when we had conference tables. And they introduce her, hey, welcome, Erin. She said, hey, thanks very much for having me here. Before we begin the meeting, would it be okay if I shared with you my plan? By all means. Erin, how is it that you already have a plan? You just got here. I already got a plan. May I share it? Please. The floor is yours. My plan is that we will get 3 times more complaints than we get today. Everybody kind of looks around nervously, like, who hired Erin? Like, what is she talking about? No, hear me out. We're a good business, right? Yeah, sure, we are. But we're not perfect. Our competitors are also good. And the only way we continue to meet escalating customer expectations is to fully understand what customers think of our operations today, tomorrow, and the day after that. What she did was she built in a ton of nudges for feedback. Email, landing pages, website, social media, signage, trained the cashiers to say things verbally, table tents on the tables in the restaurants. And in all these different places was a message. Approximately this: here at Le Pain Quotidien, we want to be the best chain of bakeries and cafes in the world, but we need your help to get there. So please do us a favor and tell us exactly what you liked or disliked about your experience with us here today. And we're listening in whatever mechanism you want to use to talk to us. Text, social, email, send us a letter, hostage note. It doesn't matter. We're listening. Guess what happened? She got 3 times more complaints, triple the number of historic complaints. But they analyzed those complaints and discovered a few things that were bothering their customers that they didn't even know about. They'd been under the radar until they proactively went and sought out customer feedback. They fixed those things. Guess what happened next? All the complaints went away. See, what Aaron understands that we all have to understand is that to get fewer complaints, you first must get more complaints. 2-step process. And I'll tell you this, as I mentioned, I've been doing this a long time. I've worked with 700 plus brands in my career. Praise is the most overrated thing in business. Oh, you're so good at that. Oh, you're so good at that. It makes you feel tremendous, but it never teaches you anything because in most cases, you already know what you're good at, both personally and professionally and inside your organization. So to have that ratified is psychologically satisfying, but it doesn't make you any better. It doesn't sharpen the knife. What makes you a better marketing professional? What makes you a better spouse? What makes you a better parent? What makes you a better friend? What makes you a better leader is complaints. And that's why it's so important to embrace them. The customers who take their time to tell us that they're not fully satisfied are literally doing us a favor because they don't have to do that. Most customers just leave. They don't take the time to tell us, they just disappear. And in fact, for every 100 dissatisfied customers, only 5 will complain. 5 out of 100. The others just stop giving you money. So friends, to create campaigns that your customers will love, to create campaigns that they love so much that they will engage in proactive word of mouth, marketers like us have to talk a lot less and listen a lot more. I'm happy to report that Knak is all in on this premise. In fact, some of you may be familiar with this. They use the Canny system to sort of check in and see what y'all think and vote on features. And I hope, I don't know if I'm unveiling something big here, Pierce, or not, but based on your feedback, folders are being rolled out soon. Everybody's super excited about folders. The idea for folders came from the community. Knak was listening just the way that I talked about. I'm really excited about all that. I know many of you are involved in email. That's my background as well. I used to be an email specialist. That may not surprise you then that I have an email myself. It's called the Baer Fax, thebaerfax.com. Every 2 weeks, I send you an email, it goes right to your inbox with marketing and customer experience advice, a tequila review, because that's kind of my thing, a book review, a podcast review, etc. Would love you to check it out, thebaerfax.com. Pierce, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Great job with everything in Knak. Love to see you following this principle. I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay. It's just incredible as always. I'm feeling very underdressed as well after seeing you on. You're always looking sharp there.
I will point out that the little character here on screen is wearing the same suit that I'm wearing today. That is literally true. Nice. So that is next level sync up only for you.
It's all coming together here, all part of the customer experience. I love it. I do want to say, in addition to being an amazing speaker, Jay has written some great books. I talked about Hug Your Haters earlier. Talk Triggers is a great one. I read it over the weekend, and we are giving out 50 copies of these signed by Jay himself. And so everyone will be in a draw after the event, and we'll make sure to get those out to the lucky winners. It's a pretty special day for us as well today at Knak. We actually announced this morning that we just raised our Series A, 25 million from Insight Partners. And so we're really excited about this next level in the history of the company. And, we really got here by listening to our customers and building products that they loved and can't wait to, take the next step on this journey together with all of them. If you're not a customer yet, we would love to show you how, some of the biggest brands in the world like Citrix and Databricks and Roche are using Knak to really enable their marketers to be more creative and get to market quicker than ever before, which is extremely important when you're trying to create amazing customer experiences and adapt to your customers' ever-changing needs. We do have a few minutes left, so I'd love to ask some questions that have come in live from the audience. One of the first ones that we have here from Nancy, she says, Jay, how do marketers balance CX responsibilities, which often require trade-offs, as you mentioned, given the current primary focus of marketers on direct lead gen / revenue?
Yeah, it's a great question, Nancy, and that friction is absolutely something I was trying to point out. What we're seeing in the data, interestingly enough, and I think this is a good lesson for a lot of organizations, is focusing less on short-term lead gen and short-term revenue and more on customer lifetime value. Because if you're looking at the true total revenue picture around retention, churn, lifetime value, pass along value, et cetera, sometimes you make a different decision than if you're only focused on the first transaction or the next transaction. So I don't think it's either revenue or customer experience. I think it's customer experience and perhaps a longer lasting view of revenue. But I'd love Paul or Pierce to comment on that as well if they like to.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think having that longer term holistic view of the density and engagement of the relationship is a much more important factor for marketers to pay attention to. And I don't feel that it's happening enough.
Yeah.
No, in fact, I just looked at that Salesforce report last night, and it was, I think, customer lifetime value, CLTV, was like the number 9 success metric or something, which was a little disheartening, actually. I think it needs to be higher. My supposition, working with a lot of enterprise clients, is that a lot of organizations, even today, don't have a great way to measure LTV, or if they do, that data doesn't get back to marketing.
Great insights there, guys. Paul, this is a question for you from Amy. She asks, what tools in your MarTech stack do you feel like are most effective for optimizing the customer experience?
Great question. The tools are in fact humans. So the resources for us at Slack are, we call them data scientists, but it's really a marketing analytics and marketing insights team. And the skills that they apply are those of, the kinds of skills that marketers have been developing for a long time, it feels like centuries, around looking for the telemetry that's indicative of, an interest or an area where more information might be needed. So mining the information that we see from product gives us insight into what the next most engaging and insightful piece of information might be for the contact that we're communicating with. So from a technologies perspective, we have Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It's connected to a very significant pile of information that comes from product and from our marketing data lake. And those two data sources are really the most informative part of the ecosystem that we leverage in how we put together communication plans for prospects and customers.
Thanks, Paul. I think this one could be for both of you guys. Linda asks, what about customer experience at the enterprise level with top buying committee executives before the purchase and after the purchase?
Yeah, that's an interesting space. Oh yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Well, what we're seeing is that on the enterprise B2B side, more and more people are involved not only in the initial decision, but are involved in the long-term cultivation of the relationship and examination of whether people should renew and things like that. So the customer experience takes on even greater importance, partially because it's 81%, I think. Yeah, 81% of B2B, of enterprise B2B CMOs say that their primary differentiator is customer experience, right? So this idea that well, we're going to keep these customers because we have a better mousetrap. Yeah, you probably don't have a better mousetrap. And if you do, it's not going to be a better mousetrap very long, maybe for a year or two until the competition catches up. And so what we're seeing is hyper specialization, hyper personalization, hyper customization on the enterprise side. And almost, if this is going to get a little wonky, but think about ABM marketing, but applied to customer relationships, right? Where it's not like, hey, this is how we handle customer success, but rather this is how we handle customer success for this customer and these particular people on the buying committee, both before and after the purchase.
Yeah, and I think what's really critical in that is the information that's most engaging at that level. So when I think about what we've done to present at the C-suite level in some of Slack's largest enterprise accounts, what we're looking at is information tailored to adoption rates, the volume of information, the flow and the impact that kind of information flowing inside an organization has on advancing the relationships inside the business and improving the overall business's success. That's not the same message that we have when we're looking to introduce Slack to an IT specialist who wants to understand the privacy risk that they would be exposed to if they were to deploy Slack. So it's really customizing and tailoring to the audience appropriately to get them engaged and to respect their time with the information that they're looking for. And so customer experience really fundamentally comes down to knowing what the right message is, to be treating people with respect.
Amazing. With that, guys, I'd love to thank both of you for your time, Cherry, as well. It's been a great session. I know I personally have learned a lot. I hope everyone in the audience has as well. Thank you again for spending an hour with us. It was great, and we hope to talk to everybody soon. Cheers.